The day the aliens took our children was, objectively speaking, a Tuesday. Not that Tuesdays were known for interstellar kidnappings, but this particular Tuesday would go down in history as the day the Zarg Empire made the worst tactical decision since Napoleon thought. Russia in winter? Sounds cozy. My name is Commander Jack Ironside of the Earth Defense Force, and I was in the middle of my daughter Emma's parent-teacher conference when the sky turned purple. Not metaphorically purple. Like everyone was angry, literally purple. The kind of purple that screams something in your atmosphere is being manipulated by technology that makes your most advanced science look like a potato clock. Mr. Ironside, as I was saying about Emma's science project MS, everybody's words died in her throat as we both watched the classroom windows darken. That's when my secure comms unit went berserk. Commander, unidentified objects in Earth orbit. They're deploying something. I nearly knocked over a tiny chair rushing outside. Beams of light were shooting down from the sky, focused on schools, playgrounds, anywhere children gathered. And then they started disappearing. Not the buildings, the kids. Emma. I sprinted back to her classroom, but I was too late. 24 empty desks. MS Peabody stood frozen, pointing at a fading shimmer in the air. Within hours, reports confirmed the pattern. Sydney, Tokyo, London, New York, Nairobi all reporting the same thing. Only children, only between ages 5 and 12, all taken simultaneously in a global operation that made D-Day look like a convenience store robbery. The president was on TV, ashen-faced. We will find them. We will bring them home. But how? Our best satellites couldn't even track whatever had taken them. Our fastest aircraft couldn't catch objects already leaving the atmosphere. Earth's military forces scrambled jets that returned without firing a shot. Missiles launched fell back to Earth or exploded harmlessly in the upper atmosphere. I stood in the EDF command center watching generals and admirals shouting over each other, pointing at screens showing nothing useful. A planet with nuclear weapons and satellite technology, rendered utterly helpless. My phone buzzed. Emma's contact photo. My heart nearly exploded. It was a video message, but not from Emma. Instead, a being with grey-blue skin and too many eyes filled the screen. People of Earth. I am Admiral Krill of the Zarg Dominion. Your offspring are unharmed. Their return depends on your immediate surrender. The resistance is ill-advised. The room fell silent. Then General Monroe whispered what we were all thinking. They don't know humans very well, do they? Now, let's hop over to the Zarg mothership, shall we? Picture a vessel the size of Manhattan, all sleek and menacing, currently parked behind Mars like it's trying to hide a monster truck in a suburban garage. Admiral Krill was strutting well, sort of gliding since Zargs have tentacles instead of legs across the command bridge. His 7-membered crew watching with their stalked eyes rotating in what passes for admiration in their species. Another flawless acquisition. Krill burbled, his speech conversion unit translating his natural clicking sounds into something resembling English. The strategy that has conquered 27 planetary systems proves effective once again. His second-in-command, Sub-Admiral Plex, adjusted her ceremonial rank tentacles and pulled up a holographic display. Indeed, Admiral. Operation Offspring Leverage is proceeding according to established protocols. The human spawn are being processed and sorted into containment quadrants. Krill waved a tentacle dismissively. Every species has the same weakness. They become irrationally attached to their young, take the juvenile members, and the adults immediately surrender rather than risk harm to their genetic investments. This is why you'll be promoted to Supreme Commander after this mission. Plex fawned. 27 consecutive successful planetary subjugations without firing a single energy weapon. Krill preened, his skin changing to a smug lavender hue. The Grand Dominator will be pleased. These humans are particularly primitive. Dennis James, Nigel, did you know they still use combustion engines? And they haven't even attempted interstellar travel. The ship's cultural analysis officer, Lieutenant Morp, tentatively raised an appendage. Admiral, preliminary scans of their entertainment broadcasts indicate humans might react differently than expected. Different how? Krill turned all 7 eye stalks toward the nervous officer. Well, they have this concept they call mama bear syndrome, and numerous cultural artifacts suggest. Lieutenant, I didn't rise to admiral by listening to junior officers overanalyzing primitive entertainment. The formula is proven. Their governments are already convening emergency sessions. I expect full surrender within their 48 hours. Just then, a junior officer slithered up. Admiral, we're detecting unusual communications patterns from Earth. They're not negotiating among themselves as expected. Explain, Krill demanded. Nations that our records show have been adversaries for centuries are suddenly sharing military resources. And the communications aren't fearful, they're angry. Krill dismissed this with a flick of his tentacle. Stage 1 denial. It will pass. Prepare the formal acceptance of their surrender. Plex looked uncertain. But sir, shouldn't we at least review Lieutenant Morp's cultural analysis? These humans do seem to be reacting, unusually. Nonsense. They're behaving exactly as the Flibdarians did, and the Xanthurians before them. First denial, then anger, then desperate negotiation, then surrender. Krill's skin turned a confident blue. Trust in the formula. In 2 days we'll have another planet in the Dominion, and you'll all be promoted. As if on cue, the ship's sensors chimed. Admiral, called out the sensor officer, we're detecting launches from Earth's surface. Ah, right on schedule, Krill said smugly. They're primitive missiles, launched in futile defiance. Our shields can withstand their nuclear weapons with 99.8% efficiency. Sir, the officer continued, these aren't matching any known missile signatures. They're smaller and faster, and there are thousands of them. Krill's confidence flickered slightly. Well, that's unexpected. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the Oval Office had been transformed into something that looked like a cross between a war room and a sci-fi convention. Military leaders from nations that normally wouldn't share the time of day were huddled around holographic displays, while tech experts frantically worked on tablets and laptops. President Elena Cortez stood at the center, her usually perfectly coiffed hair now looking like she'd stuck her finger in an electrical socket. She hadn't slept in 36 hours. Then you be so. You kids Sci. So you're telling me, she said, glaring at a wild-eyed man in a lab coat with mismatched socks, that your completely insane weapons platform that we rejected 5 times for being criminally dangerous is now our best option. Dr. Theo Blackwell grinned maniacally, pushing his glasses up his nose. Exactly, Madam President. The molecular disruption swarm was deemed excessive and unnecessarily destructive during peacetime. But now, it's Tuesday and aliens took our kids. I believe the technical term is proportionate response. The Russian president, connected via secure video, nodded grimly. We have deployed our experimental atmospheric interceptors. Chinese forces are providing targeting data. To Tianjin. Indian space tracking stations are coordinating with European satellite networks, added the Indian Prime Minister. We have eyes on the alien vessel. President Cortez looked at the United Nations Secretary General, who shrugged. I believe we can agree this qualifies as an exception to all existing space weapons treaties. A Marine burst into the room. Madam President, Lieutenant Rodriguez is requesting permission to speak directly to you. Who? Cortez asked. General Monroe whispered. Maria Bullseye Rodriguez, our top xenobiologist. She was analyzing the alien transmission. Put her through, Cortez ordered. A screen flickered to life showing a woman in her 30s with intense eyes and a ponytail so tight it looked painful. She was surrounded by biological samples and scanning equipment. Madam President, I've identified a critical weakness in the Zarg physiology. They have extraordinarily sensitive photoreceptors, their eyes. Based on the transmission spectrum, they evolved under a dim red sun. Our normal sunlight is already uncomfortable for them. Dr. Blackwell's eyes lit up. So if we were to, say, create a really, really bright light, they'd be completely incapacitated, Rodriguez confirmed. And I've analyzed their ship's exterior. What? It has viewing ports, actual windows. Their shields block kinetic and thermal energy. but visible light passes through. We can blind them, President Cortez said slowly, but that doesn't get the children back. Commander Ironside stepped forward. That's where I come in, Madam President. I've assembled a team. Give us the distraction, and we'll handle the extraction. Your team? Cortez asked skeptically. Captain Dax Hammer, former Special Forces, discharged for excessive creativity in problem-solving, and Ironside gestured to a mountain of a man cleaning a knife that wasn't standard issue. Dr. Leah Winters, quantum physicist who specializes in theoretical teleportation. A woman with multicolored hair nodded. And Finn O'Malley, the world's best hacker, recently released from prison specifically for this mission. A young man with a laptop gave a two-fingered salute. The guards were very understanding when I explained aliens took my little cousins. We're calling it Operation Kindergarten Comeback, Ironside said, his face grim but determined. While the world militaries blind the aliens with Dr. Blackwell's light show, we'll infiltrate their ship, find the children, and bring them home. That's insane, Cortez said. With all due respect, Madam President, Ironside replied. They took my daughter. Insane is exactly what we're going for. The approach to the Zarg mothership would have been beautiful if it weren't terrifying. Earth hung like a blue marble in the distance as Ironside's team huddled in the experimental stealth shuttle, its hull coated in material that absorbed radar, light, and several other types of radiation scientists hadn't even named yet. Remind me why I agreed to this, muttered Dr. Winters, knuckles white as she gripped her seat. Because they took your nephew, Captain Hammer replied, methodically checking his gear. Right. That. Winters swallowed hard. And the plan is? Ironside pulled up a holographic schematic. We're riding in on the blind spot created by Dr. Blackwell's light show. Finn has hacked their communication systems to feed them false sensor data. We dock here. He pointed at a maintenance hatch and enter through what appears to be their waste processing system. We're breaking into an alien spaceship through their toilet, Hammer asked. More like their compost bin. But yeah, essentially Ironside confirmed. Classy, Finn said, typing furiously on his laptop. I've got their internal systems mapping now. Their security protocols are weird. They're not designed to keep people out. They're designed to keep things in. The children, Winters realized. That's our advantage, Ironside said. They never expected anyone to be crazy enough to break in. As they approached, the darkness of space suddenly lit up. Thousands of Earth-launched microsatellites simultaneously activated, creating a sphere of blinding light around the Zarg ship. That's our cue, Ironside said, as the shuttle autopilot engaged its final approach sequence. Remember, we're not here to fight a war. We're here to get the kids and go home. The docking was less of a gentle connection and more of a controlled crash. As the team struggled into their tactical gear, Finn's laptop chimed. I'm in their systems, he announced, and you're not going to believe this. I'm picking up a signal from inside it using an iPhone Bluetooth protocol. The kids have access to technology, Hammer asked. Better, Finn grinned. They've organized. Look at this. He turned his screen around. A crude map of the ship's interior had been drawn, with sections labeled Slimy Guard Area and Food Goop Station, and where they keep the really big buttons. That's Emma's handwriting, Ironside whispered. My daughter's coordinating from inside. According to this, Finn said, the children are being held in a large central chamber they're calling the playground. But they're not just sitting around waiting. They've been systematically annoying their captors and mapping the ship. How did they manage that? Winters asked. The Zargs made a critical error, Ironside realized. They took children from Earth's top schools, including Emma's Science Academy. These aren't just kids, they're the brightest young minds on the planet. As they prepared to enter the ship, Hammer looked at Ironside. So just to be clear, our plan is to break into an advanced alien warship, find several hundred organized genius children, and somehow get them all back to Earth. That's about the size of it, Ironside confirmed. Outstanding, Hammer grinned, hefting his gear. Just making sure we're all on the same page of the crazy book. The team breached the outer hull and entered the Zarg ship. The interior was bathed in dim reddish light and smelled like a combination of seaweed and cinnamon. The corridors were wider than human standards and sloped slightly, designed for the gliding motion of Zarg tentacles. They encountered their first aliens almost immediately, two Zarg guards writhing on the floor, their eye stalks retracted in obvious pain. "Dr. Blackwell's light show is working," Winters whispered. "They're completely disoriented." "This way," Finn directed, following his hacked map. "The children are 3 levels down, central hub." As they moved deeper into the ship, they began to notice something odd. Small traps had been set up in the corridors, tripwires made from what looked like shoelaces, puddles of some slippery substance on the floor, and in one case, what appeared to be a crude catapult made from cafeteria trays. "The kids have been busy," Hammer observed, carefully stepping over a line of sticky food goo. "Emma always was good at home alone," Ironside said with equal parts pride and worry. Finally, they reached a massive door labeled in alien script. Finn connected his laptop to a nearby control panel. "Give me 2 minutes to crack this." "Or," came a small voice from an overhead vent, "you could just ask nicely." The vent cover popped open, and a small face peered out, a boy of about 10 with a missing front tooth. "Are you the rescue?" "Emma said you'd come. She said her dad would bring the cavalry." The massive door hissed open, revealing a scene that could only be described as Lord of the Flies meets science fair. Hundreds of children had transformed their prison into something between a fortress and a laboratory. Makeshift barriers constructed from alien furniture created a perimeter around a central command area where, standing on what appeared to be an alien cafeteria table, it was Emma Ironside. At 12 years old, Emma had her father's determined jawline and her mother's analytical eyes. Her normally neat braids had come undone, giving her a wild appearance as she directed operations via a modified alien communication device. "Dad," she shouted, leaping from the table and running toward Commander Ironside. He swept her into a fierce hug, fighting back tears. "Emma, are you okay? Are you hurt?" "I'm fine," she said, pulling back. "But we need to move fast. The Zargs are planning some kind of announcement to Earth in 20 minutes. They're going to show everyone the children and make demands." "How do you know all this?" Dr. Winters asked, amazed at the organization around them. Emma grinned. "Their translation software is terrible. They think we can't understand them, but Prisha from Mumbai figured out their language on day 2. Plus," she pointed to a group of children huddled around alien technology, "they gave us these tablets to keep us occupied. Took Tyler about an hour to hack them." "That's my girl," Ironside said proudly. "What's the situation?" "We've got 347 kids total from 42 countries. Everyone's accounted for. The Zargs put us all in this central holding area because it was the most secure. What they didn't count on was that it's also the ship's main control hub." Captain Hammer looked impressed. "You've been controlling the ship?" "Not controlling exactly," Emma clarified, "but we can see everything they're doing. They're in total disarray since the lights started. What was that, by the way?" "It was awesome. Dr. Blackwell's molecular disruption swarm," Finn explained. "Basically turns the vacuum of space into a disco ball from hell." A commotion at the far end of the room drew their attention. The internal doors were opening, and a very distressed Admiral Krill glided in, flanked by armed guards. "What is the meaning of this?" the Admiral demanded, his speech unit translating his clicks and whistles. "How are humans aboard my vessel?" Ironside stepped forward, positioning himself between the aliens and the children. "Admiral Krill, I presume?" "I'm Commander Jack Ironside, Earth Defense Force. You have something that belongs to us." Krill's eye stalks twitched in what might have been confusion. "This is not possible. No species has ever mounted a counteroffensive after an offspring leverage operation. Your technology is insufficient." "You made a fundamental error in your tactical assessment," Ironside replied. "You assumed we would negotiate. You should have checked our history books." "Your primitive weapons cannot harm this vessel," Krill insisted, though his color was shifting to an uncertain yellowish hue. "We're not here to destroy your ship," Ironside said calmly. "We're just here for the children. But since you mention it, Finn, would you mind?" The hacker grinned and hit a button on his laptop. Throughout the ship, alarms began to blare. "What have you done?" Krill demanded, his translator barely keeping up with his agitated clicks. "Oh, just initiated your ship's self-destruct sequence," Finn said casually. "You really shouldn't use the same master password for everything, especially not one that translates to Tentacles Master 1. "You're bluffing." Krill's skin was now definitely yellow, presumably the Zarg equivalent of turning pale. "Deactivating the self-destruct requires command authorization." "You mean like this?" Emma held up a small device with Krill's biometric signature that they'd lifted from the system. "You guys really should be more careful about what you let your prisoners access." Krill's eye stalks drooped. "This is unprecedented. The formula has never failed." "The formula," Dr. Winters stepped forward, "didn't account for human parents. You took children from a species that once went to war over a soccer game. What exactly did you think would happen?" "We offer immediate unconditional surrender," Krill said, deflating visibly. "That's more like it." Ironside nodded. "Now here's what's going to happen. You're going to return every child to exactly where you took them from. Then you're going to leave our solar system and spread the word. Earth is off limits." Krill's translator struggled to convey his mix of confusion and defeat. "But why? Why would you risk everything, your lives, your planet, for immature specimens who haven't even reached reproductive age?" Ironside looked at Emma, then back at the alien admiral. "That's what you still don't understand. We weren't risking everything despite them being children. We were willing to risk everything precisely because they are our children." The return to Earth was considerably less dramatic than the rescue. The Zarg mothership, now under the bizarre joint command of Admiral Krill, under duress, and Emma Ironside, surprisingly effective, systematically returned every child to their point of origin. The alien technology that had allowed for mass teleportation was repurposed to send the children home in exactly the reverse order they'd been taken. Global media captured the reunion's parents sobbing as their children materialized in playgrounds, schools, and backyards. The children themselves seemed remarkably unfazed, mostly complaining about alien food goop and comparing notes on which parts of the spaceship they'd explored. In Washington, D.C., the world's leaders gathered for what was officially termed a Galactic Security Summit, but was essentially a victory party. President Cortez raised a glass to the assembled heroes. "To Operation Kindergarten Comeback," she toasted, "the most ridiculous plan in military history that actually worked." Commander Ironside, with Emma perched on his shoulders, accepted the toast with a nod. "In fairness, Madam President, we had inside help." He gestured to his daughter, who waved to the applause. Dr. Blackwell, now suddenly finding his previously rejected weapons designs in high demand, was deep in conversation with scientists from around the world. The light bomb was just the beginning. "I've got plans for gravity wells, temporal distortion fields." "Perhaps," the UN Secretary-General interrupted gently, "we could discuss those in a more controlled environment." On the main stage, Admiral Krill, now the reluctant ambassador from the Zarg Dominion, addressed the assembly. His normally imposing figure seemed diminished, his eye stalks drooping with the weight of his defeat. "On behalf of the Zarg Dominion, I officially acknowledge the sovereignty of Earth and classify humanity as a Class 5 protected species, designation extremely dangerous when provoked." President Cortez smiled thinly. "And the other 27 worlds you've subjugated using the same tactics?" Krill's translator emitted what might have been a sigh. "As per our agreement, liberation protocols have been initiated for all planets held under offspring leverage operations." "Good," Cortez nodded. "And the Galactic announcement?" Krill activated a holographic display showing a message being broadcast across all known communication channels in the galaxy. "Attention, all spacefaring civilizations. Earth and its solar system are designated restricted territory. Humanity is classified as deceptively primitive but terrifyingly protective of their young. Approach with extreme caution. This is not a suggestion." After the ceremonies, Commander Ironside found Emma sitting on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, looking up at the stars. "Penny for your thoughts, kiddo?" he asked, sitting beside her. "I was just thinking," she said. "The Zargs were supposed to be this super-advanced civilization, but they didn't understand the most basic thing about humans." "And what's that?" Emma looked at her father. "That we'd do anything for each other, not just parents for children, but everyone. The whole world came together for us." Ironside put his arm around her shoulders. "That's the thing about being human, Emma. We might fight among ourselves constantly, but the minute someone from outside threatens one of us, we all become family," Emma finished. Above them, a shooting star streaked across the sky, though it was actually the Zarg ship leaving Earth's orbit at full speed, likely breaking several cosmic speed limits in their haste to put as much distance as possible between themselves and the small blue planet that had humbled their empire. As reports would later confirm, the Zarg Dominion immediately updated their Galactic Encyclopedia entry for human. The new entry was brief but crystal clear. Humans, carbon-based bipeds from the third planet of the Sol system, technologically inferior but strategically unpredictable. Warning: extremely protective of their offspring. Do not, under any circumstances, mess with their kids. Seriously. Just don't.